Hi, warm welcome. It's Gene from maverickstar. I just thought I'd talk about this with you guys because I know that you like, the topic of geomagnetism, and of course we're in the cycle of a reversal. Whether that's going to be an excursion or a completed reversal is, unknown yet. All this is unknown. We have no recorded data going back to the last magnetic reversal on our planet. And what I mean by that is, yes, we have the paleontology records showing that, Earth has gone through an excursion in the last 12,000 years. But what I'm talking about is something entirely different. What was the creatures and human beings experiencing during that low level of protective field of magnetosphere at that point in time? What was the biological effects, if any, that was being felt at the time of the last excursion when the magnetosphere dropped to low levels? And again, I can't help but trying to bring it to your attention that I think it's more than just a coincidence that the top left and the bottom left picture shows almost an identical pattern. Only difference is between the two is one is looking at temperature and the other one is looking at magnetism. So on the bottom left over Russia, you've got a magnetic intensity of about 60,000 nanoteslas. Over in Canada, 55,000 nanoteslas. The magnetic plume that you're seeing coming up over the south coast of Australia, again in the range of around 55,000 nanoteslas. Or if you want to use the units of Gauss, we'll just say that in Russia is 0.65 Gauss, Canada 0.55 Gauss, and down in the south, just coming up over the South Peninsula of Australia, again 0.55 Gauss. And then in the South Atlantic anomaly, that blue region on the bottom left image, we're talking about 0.25 Gauss of magnetism. To put that into perspective, your fridge magnet is about 100 Gauss. So it shows you how weak, really, in comparison to your fridge magnet, the Earth's magnetic field is. Only, I've talked about this before. We can look at electricity in terms of voltage and current. You can have a very low current and a high voltage and it won't kill you. You can have 25,000 volts go through you, but if it's at like 0.5 milliamps, it's not going to kill you. If it's 25,000 volts at 1,000 amps, you're dead. You will turn to cinders in seconds and there will be a big explosion. And I think magnetism's like that. We've got a very low amount of magnetism, less than or around about, well, it is actually less than 1 Gauss, comparing to your fridge magnet, which is probably about 100 to, even the stronger fridge magnets, 1,000 Gauss. That's the comparison. And yet, it can, at that low percentage of intensity, 0.25 to 0.65 Gauss, it can still bend the needle of your compass wherever you are on the planet. So there must be, a lot of current throwing out a small amount of Gauss. I know that science doesn't like to discuss magnetism like that, but that's the only way I see it. That's the way I like to visualize it, because obviously this low level of Gauss seems to spread out all over the world, yet the effects of your fridge magnet will only affect the compass needle if you're within a meter or so of it. So the fridge magnet might have 100 to 1,000 Gauss, yet it will only have a current or a push value or an attractive value of only a couple of meters, whereas the Earth is on the other end of the scale. It seems to have a lot of current pushing that low magnetic intensity. And I just wonder why science has never looked at it like that, especially when you put it in those terms. When you compare it to a fridge magnet being much, much stronger than the Earth's magnetic field, yet only having a short distance of affecting power, let's say that. One thing for sure, which is not being doubted by any mainstream organisation, is that we are going through a magnetic reversal, or we have started the process of that. And the magnetic North Pole has migrated nearly a couple of thousand miles over the Northern Hemisphere in the last 123 years. And it is not disputed. It is accepted. What will be the repercussions of this is yet to be found out. This is brand new territory for us all. And, we can only effort our best guesses to a lot of the things. I mean, we do know quite a bit. We know that when there is low levels of protective intensity, like the magnetosphere drops, we know that it can cause cardiac arrhythmias. It can cause heart failure. Cosmic rays do cause heart failure. That's a proven fact. We know also that it can lead to increased risks of cancer, because after all, the magnetosphere blocks, let's just say it in its simplest form, radiation from our sun, outer galactic radiation and intergalactic radiation will all come through our magnetosphere as a result of the poles weakening more. So we have this real problem that we are going to have to deal with in the not too distant future. We will go through a magnetic reversal, or we will go through or experience an excursion. But either way, the magnetosphere will weaken in both incidences. It will weaken, and that means our level of protection will drop. It's strange that in the last 20 years, mainstream media, organisations and governments around the world have become obsessed with climate. Some would even say, climate hysteria. They want to reduce the levels of CO2 in our atmosphere. And, they understand just as well as me and you that, we could be risking the vegetation and the diverse vegetation on our planet when we cut back. If we was able to do that, we would be risking the vegetation of all the world's plant species, because they rely on CO2. As you can imagine. So, dropping the levels of CO2 to say 200 would probably be the cut-off point for most vegetative species on our planet. And that means, if we killed off all the vegetation on our planet, we would be dead ourselves, as well as along with, millions of other species that rely on the vegetation on our planet. And yet they want to reduce CO2. Doesn't make any sense, does it, sometimes? I used the word hysteria because it's perfectly normal, as you can see. At this point in time in the Milankovitch cycle, the 100,000 year cycle where we go in and out of interglacial to glacial periods, it's perfectly normal to have levels of CO2 which they are at right now. The other important thing is just look where we are on this chart. On the right hand side where 0 is. You know what's coming next. We're going back into a glacial period. We've enjoyed, the 12 to 15,000 years luxury of not being in a glacial period. And we're going back there now. And our governments around the world, as far as I'm aware, have not prepared for this event. They have spent lots of money on lots of other things, but they've not spent a coin, as far as I can see, on this next event. And this next event shuts down, the food production of the majority of our Earth. I'm not going to say it because, you know what, I've been accused of, you're fear porning and this, that and the other. But look at the record here. Shows the case of what's coming. What do you think? You'll be able to grow crops above 40 degrees latitude on our planet when it goes into a full glaciation? Really? It won't happen. I'm not saying millions and millions of people are going to die. I'm just saying that it's going to be hard to find a place on our Earth where we can produce enough food to feed them, because we're struggling right now. India have put an export ban on rice. America is struggling to produce its own rice because of the climate. Either it's too wet, too dry. They've had the right amount of rain, but they've had extra heat on top, and that's caused humidity to go up, and that's killed the rice plants. So we're starting to see this happen, this unfold already. And then on top of that, we have the magnetic pole reversal. All I can say to you guys is we are facing interesting times. And both cases, we don't see enough information on these anomalies that are taking place right now. So pretty much the majority of the world's inhabitants are not informed. They're completely unaware of what's happening, and they're going to be caught with their pants down. And governments around the world have not taken either one of these anomalies that I've showed you just seriously enough. Again, this chart shows the exact same. This comes from central Greenland ice core samples. Shows the temperature record going back 15,000 years. You can see in the Younger Dryas we was in the last glacial period, and we just came out of it 12,000 years ago. And you can see where we are on the right hand side towards 2000. You can see we're at the bottom of the line, which means we have probably had the best of this interglacial period that we're going to get. And it's just a matter of time. I don't know whether there is such a thing as a thermocline. I've got to choose my words really carefully these days, because I get banned, blocked and strikes off YouTube, and then we have the armchair warriors come in in the comment section. So I have to choose my words very carefully now from this point on out with you guys, and I just want you to use your imagination. What do you think is going to happen next? You can see that we have been in warmer times in our history, but right now look where we are on this chart. And on the other chart that I showed you, you could see that there was 100,000 year cycles, and for the 12,000 years within those 100,000 year cycles, we emerge in an interglacial period which is slightly warmer, and that's what we've been accustomed to for thousands of years. We've enjoyed the ability to use the northern hemisphere for use of cropping and growing food. But that is going to go offline. And I want to say to you, what if CO2 is nothing at all to do with climate change? What if everything that is taking place right now is actually part of a natural cycle? Well, you can see yourself just as good as I can where we are on that cycle just by looking at the end of that chart. What do you think? We're really going to go back into warmer days? If man-made CO2 was responsible for global warming, then surely if we wanted to prevent another glacial period coming along, we should just carry on happily as we are right now. If CO2 actually has an influence on the climate where it warms the planet, then what the hell's wrong with that? You know, let it warm the planet. Let it prevent us going back into another glacial period so that we can keep enjoying the northern hemisphere for growing crops for ourselves. You know, you couldn't have come up with a better method, even if you tried, if that was the case. I can't believe the mentality of the politicians when they talk about the climate in a hysteria manner. You know, they get the pants in a twist. We've got to cool the planet. We've got to sort out CO2. It's the criminal. You know, CO2 ain't affecting our climate. It's a trace gas. It makes up less than 0.5% of the atmospheric gases in our atmosphere. That's not what's causing the changes in our climate. There's something else. Maybe it's a natural cycle, like the Milankovitch cycle, that, you know, the 100,000 year cycle where we go into glacial periods and back into glacial periods. Maybe it's part of a normal cycle. But if it is, these governments have put nothing away for it. Or there is another alternative, and that is they know full well what's causing the climate to change, and they know full well it's not CO2, but they're using CO2 to raise billions and billions of pounds in order to prevent, you know, human continuity becoming extinct. Maybe, I'm just putting it out there, because I know some of the armchair warriors are going to join us a bit later on, and they're going to throw this in there, so I might as well. Maybe they know that it's nothing to do with CO2. Maybe they know it's part of a grand cycle. Maybe they know that CO2 rises at this point in time, but as soon as we go back into that glacial period, it drops, like it does on the chart. But maybe they're using CO2 as a method to raise money so that they can ensure that a few human beings make it through this next difficult time. And then, of course, we have the magnetic pole reversal. What part does that have on climate change? Well, we know. Cosmic rays make seeding platforms for condensation. And if you have heavily laden jet streams with more water particles in them, then you are going to get the dislocations like we see with the polar and subtropical jet streams both over the northern and southern hemispheres. So maybe they know this as well. Or maybe they don't just care. Maybe they are just trying to raise money to wax themselves rich, and they couldn't give a damn about what happens to the climate on this planet, one way or another, so long as right now they're enjoying the wealth that the corruption brings. And to hell with every one of us left on this planet. Maybe that's another scenario. But I want you to pay attention to where we are right now on this chart. We're at the lowest levels, and should we expect anything else at this point in time, when we know how long we spend in interglacials? Should we expect anything else? No. We're right where we should be, and maybe the Earth's climate is right where it should be as well. And maybe this is all part of a natural cycle that we see repeated every 100,000 years. So I just thought I'd share that with you. You know, put it out there. I know you like talking about these things. Guys, there is a link down there, and whoa, can you hear the buttons clicking right now? Everyone's leaving. Okay, you know, it's okay. You know what? People don't have to donate, okay? But things will have to change as a result of that. Till this point in time, we've managed to keep it free for everybody, so long as a few people chipped in. And for the last couple of months, let's say, things have worked out a little bit different. I'm just going to say that. So I will mention the link down there. We're hoping that, you know, there'll be some changes. Some people will, you know, come forward and chip in a few bucks. But if they don't, that's fine. Absolutely fine. We'll see where this goes. Guys, you take care of your loved ones and think about what I've said in this video, because, you know, there's something there to chew over. As always, bye for now.